We usually see big cats as quite dangerous animals who could easily harm anyone who gets in their way, so there's no way that a human and a cheetah could be best friends, right? Well, that's exactly what happened in this story. Olga was an animal-loving woman who worked in a small zoo in a town in Russia. One day, the zoo received a new member, a male cheetah named Isaac. Everyone was excited to meet this big cat and see how he would react. When Isaac was introduced to his new home, instead of investigating the different smells and sights, he immediately lay down. Things only got worse the next morning when employees noticed that the cheetah hadn't moved all night. They thought he was just scared or upset about being moved, so they tried to move him by offering him some breakfast. Sadly, the big cat did not seem to want to eat anything as it appeared depressed. This sent alarm bells ringing in the staff's heads, and they quickly called a veterinarian to come and look at the cheetah to see if there was something wrong with him. After giving Isaac a health check, the vet told concerned employees that the cheetah was breathing at a heavier rate than usual. The vet then explained that he thought the animal might have picked up a cold during his transportation to the zoo, which had then developed into a more severe case of pneumonia. The vet told the zoo employees that Isaac urgently needed to be given some medicine to help combat the virus, but this would not be an easy job. The big cat didn't want to eat or drink, meaning that the medicine he needed to take in order to get better wouldn't be able to get into his system. The longer that the cheetah didn't take the required medicine, the worse he became. He lost a lot of weight, his fur became dull and rough, and his eyes turned red. If Isaac tried to stand up, he wouldn't last more than a few seconds before his legs lost their strength and gave way, causing the feline to fall to the floor. All the zoo's employees were incredibly worried about Isaac. They didn't know what to do to help make him better if he would not eat or drink. But the most worried of all was a woman named Olga. She realized that if the animal didn't get help soon, he had the possibility of actually dying. Knowing that it was a last resort and very dangerous, Olga proposed the idea of hand-feeding Isaac to make sure that the beast actually ate the medicine it was supposed to. The zookeepers did not approve of the idea, as they felt that the risk would be too great. Wild animals are difficult to predict at the best of times, but they can become increasingly agitated and reckless when they are injured or sick. Still, Olga saw no other option to get the animal healthy again, so she took matters into her own hands. One day, when none of the keepers were around Isaac's cage, Olga snuck into the cage. As she crept closer, the big cat, to her surprise, did not move one bit in the direction of the woman, and instead continued to lie in his spot. Once Olga was close enough to Isaac, she began bringing pieces of meat that she had snuck into the cage with her in an attempt to feed the animal. But all he did was bare his teeth at her a little, as if to tell her to go away and leave him alone. Determined not to give up until the cheetah had eaten and drunk something, Olga tried dipping the meat into some water to see if it would be more appetizing for him. Amazingly, when she held the food out for him, the cheetah licked the water off of the meat. It wasn't much, but it was something. After tasting the meat with the water, the cheetah took a small bite of the meat as well. It was the first bite of food he had had in a long time. After the small bite, Isaac seemed to have had enough and turned away from Olga. Though it was not much, it left Olga feeling delighted, ecstatic as she was. She ran to the vet after leaving the cage to get more medicine for Isaac. She now knew how to get the big cat to take the medicine without him noticing. Every time Olga went to feed Isaac, she would add a little medicine to the meat soaked in water. Not knowing that anything different had been added to his food, the cheetah happily nibbled away at the pieces of meat that the woman would bring him. Soon enough, the medicine worked, and Isaac recovered and came to his senses a bit more. He was a lot more active than he had been when he first arrived, and he seemed to be much more curious about his surrounding environment. A few days later, when Olga arrived to feed him some meat, the feline got up from his spot on the floor and went to greet her. He bumped his head into her legs, as if to say thank you. Olga was astounded and happily petted the big cat on his head. As she did, the animal purred like a kitten. From then on, Olga would happily enter Isaac's cage daily, only to be greeted each time by the loving big cat. The woman knew that she and Isaac had formed a strong bond, and that he was happily awaiting her arrival every day, like a long-lost friend. As things looked up for Isaac, the woman couldn't be more pleased. She had saved the life of this amazing animal, and he was clearly grateful to her for doing so. But then, during the summer, a year after Isaac was first introduced to the small zoo, they made a decision that would break the hearts of both Olga and the cheetah. The zoo told Olga that they simply didn't have enough money to keep the big cat. They couldn't afford to house and feed it. They didn't have enough money to shelter and feed the cheetah, nor did they have enough to give him more medicine for future ailments. Knowing that the animal couldn't stay with them, the zoo then revealed that they had sold Isaac to a circus. It wasn't long after the sale that the beautiful cheetah was taken away to his new home. On the day that he was collected, they loaded him up onto a transport cage. As if he knew he was going to be separated from his best friend, he thrashed about and growled. Olga was heartbroken and couldn't hold back her tears as she watched the beautiful animal be taken away because the circus traveled around the country. Olga didn't know where it would be from one moment to the next, which meant she couldn't visit him. 4 long years passed when the news that a circus was back in town reached Olga's ears. She heard that the circus was bringing some of their animals to the zoo so that they could be filmed. She also overheard that, along with the rest of the animals, a blind cheetah was being brought in. It turned out that the animal had lost its sight 2 years prior after a serious illness had taken hold. Luckily, the cheetah had survived. When Olga learned that the animal was in a nearby room, she couldn't believe her luck. Was this really unusual? She hurried after the circus employee to the room where the big cat was being housed in. At first, when Olga entered, the cheetah paid no attention to her and continued eating its food. But as soon as the woman asked the circus employee about the feline, the animal perked up, stopped eating, and turned toward her voice. The cheetah let out a sharp meow. Olga was overjoyed. She quickly ran into the cage to be with the friend she once thought she had lost forever. Isaac was just as happy to be reunited with his friend, and he made his way over to the woman he cared so much about. He nudged her legs and purred into her hands. Amazingly, after 4 years, the cheetah still remembered his old friend. It just goes to show that kindness, care, and compassion, regardless of species, can go a long way.